Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the OG's Power Hour. John Berfello's in flight right now, flying back to Vancouver. So it's just me and Tony this morning, and we're talking about watering. I know there was a question last week from Pembina River, and she was asking about blue mats. Tony, do you know anything about blue mats? I don't know a whole heck of a lot about them.
I've not used them myself. I have a few friends that use them. I just never used them in there. I've always been a hand watering kind of guy, or I've got automated system.
Okay, yeah, and I know like Blue Mats is an automated system, but I know that Leighton Morrison, when he talks about them, one of the problems is if the carrots is what they're called dry out, that it can call for water and you can end up with a flooding issue. So I know that he was saying to wrap them in like a canvas or a burlap, in I believe it was either soil or oh geez, what I got in my yard all over the place. Uh,
Clay.
Clay, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So that they can retain that moisture and not dry out, so that you don't have that problem. Have you heard about that problem at all as well?
I'm not a lot, really. Most people are running it with the tape and the carrots, so they're keeping their system moist enough. Maybe if you were just relying on the carrot alone and didn't have them buried deep enough that they might dry out on the top layer. But most of the people that I know use them like them. Like Cheddar Bob uses them, and
Okay.
he's always liked them. And the fact that they can be ran passively on a gravity fed system is something that I know he liked about them also. So you really don't even have to have a pump to water them if you're doing the gravity feed, and that should keep them from running out because they'll have a pressure on them all the time. It's just
Yeah.
about how much they release. It's kind of similar. They're working sort of like the old school Oya pot, which was
Yeah.
a clay vessel that's buried in the soil, and you
Mm-hmm.
pour water in, and it just slowly seeps out through the non-glazed um, clay vessel. So you
Yep.
could make a large vessel or put multiple ones in different sections of the bed. So that way the roots will search out for that area and the moisture will come from a distance instead of just being soaked around the trunk all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know that like I'm quite familiar with the old oil pots. I follow a lot of homesteaders that are out in the desert, and that's what they're using. And yeah, having the gravity feed option to keep things moist all the time is a great option. So how are you watering yourself? Like you're just watering individually all
Yeah.
the time, Tony?
I water every morning. So now, right now, I got to water twice a day as hot as it is. It's been 114 here in the
Yeah.
shade. So, like in the direct sun, which I do have two of my plants in, one of them does not like it at all. Like it can't handle that shit. The Mac 1 space cheese, it's completely showing signs of too much sun.
Right.
And there's no way for me to cover it in my position. So I just let it rock out there because I have other ones not far from it, but underneath the 35% shade cloth, and they're doing
Mhm.
10 times better in the way they're growing. It can't handle the amount of light that's being given to it at the moment. So,
Yeah.
if I had the ability to put in a shaded spot, it would work better. But I have to water that, and there's the plant I have called the Ghost of Candida, and it just eats water up. Like it uses twice the water as my haze crosses every day. It almost
Mhm.
goes bone dry within 24 hours, and that's in a 30-gallon pot every time.
Oh,
So I have to water that thing almost too much to the point where it's starting to leach out the soils because of how often I have to water it. And then putting a regular strength nutrients to it during the day causes a spike in the sodium levels in there. If you have, especially if you're using a synthetic, I don't, but even with organics, you can get a spike because of the amount of moisture that's in the system if you don't keep it wet.
yeah. Yeah.
So I'm always monitoring, and I go out there. I have well water, so I can water with my well. It comes out 5.8 to 6.2, at 113 to 118 parts per million, and that's in calcium. Mostly that's coming out of my faucet and the added solids.
Well, and calcium is something that cannabis plant really does love.
Oh, it craves it. So like that's not even close to enough, but it's a good thing. Like if I have to charge coconut, I can just use my tap water because of how much calcium's in it. That 113 parts per million has enough to actually buffer that for me. So I don't almost have to add anything. I like to add like a worm tea if I was doing coconut.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, and actually, I ran across on Luna's show on last Thursday. We had on Mike, no, Dan Hannaran, and he was mentioning taking seed powder, cornmeal, or corn powder. You'd have to actually watch the show, guys. It was really an interesting show. But to get the biology at the beginning when you're sprouting your seeds, and he was also mentioning glycerin as a surfactant and how it was so much better in your watering. The water was almost seeming to stick better than just flowing out. So you might want to try a vegetable glycerin for that one that's out in the sun, Tony. I
use soap nut powder. It's a surfactant, so it does the same thing. It's added there every time I water. Well, she just uses way more water. Like literally, the plant with a foot away from it is using half the amount of water that plant, and it's doing it in every position I have it. Indoors, outside, in the same spot. I got two plants in big pots next to each other. In my greenhouse, I've got 2 more versions of it in different size pots. I've got them in 2 gallons and in 3-gallon pots right now.
Right.
And it's repeated in every single scenario that plant uses way more water than anything.
Yeah. It's just it's out. Are you using a mulch layer on top to try to hold the humidity in your soil, or is it just bare soil?
No, I didn't have the ability to get anything from mulch this year. I had too much stuff going on in my life. But my plants are so large that nothing's hitting the top of that soil. They cover everything. I just make sure none of the branches are touching the soil.
Mm-hmm.
But they go completely over it, so it's a cover there.
Now, Ghetto Hippie wants to know: is the spike caused by osmotic pressure?
I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Osmotic the amount of water in the system causes a spike in the dissolved solids in the medium.
Yeah, you're releasing it. Just
and
basically,
if I put enough water in there to try to like remove that at one time, that it's not wise. So I have to keep the water level at a certain level. So if I have to go out twice a day and water, I don't water to runoff. I just water till moist and shit with organic soil system. I don't like watering that until like the old school way was to let 10 to 15% runoff.
Yeah,
you don't want to do that in an organic system. At least I found
you're flushing out your biology and everything that's good in your system if you're doing that, unless you're allowing it.
A lot of times, if you don't have good drainage, you're going to get an anaerobic level at the bottom, and that's going to slow down root growth. Could cause root pathogens to start showing up if you don't have a good enough biology that's already popping. I mean, if you just end up with all anaerobic in the bottom of the root zone, it's going to stink. The plant's going to slow its growth. You might end up triggering other diseases to be easily taking over your fucking you're getting powdery mildew. You'll start getting fusarium showing up in your system. You're going to get all kinds of crap. Pythium.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you don't want that anaerobic zone ever but then at the same time, you don't want any zones that are drying out in your pot as well. That's where the surfactant, like you're using the soap nut powder, and I used actually soap nuts myself, boiled them down and used that as a surfactant. But I think the vegetable glycerin, I'm going to have to try it out on my next grow coming up here. just to see that if there's any real difference in that compared to like a soap nut powder.
Yeah, I like the soap nut for multiple reasons. It's also an aphicide. It can kill aphids with enough of it in the water. Um, it can
Okay.
work on some mites also. There's different ones. There's the Kiaha. That one also can kill aphids added to the water to strong enough. I don't know if glycerin does it. It may do the same thing and help clog up the pores on the bodies of the bugs and keep
Mm-hmm.
them from oxygen and just basically smother them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone was asking here about my Nana's cookies. So you're in the Northeast. It'll do great indoors. I bred her outdoors, and she likes heat here. But I've never had an issue with anybody um, getting any kind of mold issues with her, as long as
Okay.
she has good airflow up there in the Northeast. I'm trying to think of Cheddar Runner. Jeremy was in Colorado. I'm trying to think of some of the old school grows if anyone was close to there.
Well, was Cheddar running it at all? Because he's up in the Northeast, right?
I don't. He has it, but I don't think he's ran it yet. He's got Cheddar has like 50 of my crosses in his collection,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's got a bunch. Him and Grumpy that's out here. There's a guy named Roberto. Roberto, he's one of the first people. Pistol Positive, Levi from Pistol Positive. He's the first person that bought packs of seeds from me when I went public. He bought
Okay,
one of
cool.
everything I produced. And from that, me and him became lifelong friends. That dude's,
Yeah.
man, I call that dude a brother. He's such a cool cat. He's been breeding for a long time too. Him and my buddy Jason Bauer, the Pistol Brothers.
Cool.
They run Pistol Positive Genetics. They do some killer work.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you ever used like a wick system or a weeping system? And guys, when that's just basically a system where you water from the bottom and the
Mhm.
water moves up inside of the soil structure so you don't have
Mhm.
dry spots. Have you used that?
Well,
Tony?
last year I did that with SIP systems. It's similar to an earth box. All you do is it waters what you're saying. You fill up a air vessel and it soaks up through pockets of whatever you use to actually absorb the water. I used to use coconut in that. Coconut holds more air in it than any kind of soil is going to ever do. So it's a way to make sure you don't have an anaerobic layer that comes in contact with the water. So I always use coconut to pack the corners. And then from there, I put like a 1/4 inch across the bottom. And from there, I'll put my living soil above that.
Mm-hmm.
And they work killer. I don't know if Ed's watching, but my partner Ed out here, he was growing all kinds of stuff. He had soil, he had hydro. He was doing all kinds of stuff, and he couldn't get consecutive grows with great herb every time. And I talked him into trying out one sip, and now he's changed his whole garden over to those. And he's getting more herb than he can handle, basically. Like he's just one cat. So like he went from hoping he could have enough weed for this grow to last till next one, till now being able to choose what he's going to smoke in between because of the efficiency of those systems. They're real easy.
Well, I know, and
I
that's what
recommend
John
for
is
starters.
using. John's
Who's that?
using one.
John,
Berfelo is using one, and I can't remember the actual because it's a brand name that he's using. A company out of I'm not sure if it's out of Canada or the US, but yeah, that's what I was using myself. And my next grow, I'm going to be looking at that again and slowly transitioning into Layton's horizontal soil system because I want that rock and sand layer at the bottom to act as an aquifer. I found that after doing it for 2 years, that I was overwatering a little bit too much. I wasn't leaving enough air between the bottom of my soil and where I had my water layer. And I developed an anaerobic pocket and I killed a couple of plants off. Like one day they were great, the next day they're dead.
Yeah, that's why some of the pre-made systems work great because they ensure that 1/2 inch to 1 inch layer from the water level to the bottom of the roots, so that the roots will actually air prune inside that layer and basically ensure you don't get that anaerobic layer because the water will evaporate out of the system faster. You
Yeah,
just have to
yeah,
watch on your like where you're at, how your plant's processing water. So in my area, uh, like once I'm in flower, every
mhm,
2 days I have to put water in that thing. They're fully dry.
yeah,
The soil system's still moist, but they're dry. I can put the same 2 gallons every time in and get just a trickle to come out the overflow, and do that every time. Every 2 days, put in 2 gallons. Um,
yeah.
and and that really will ensure that you're never going to go anaerobic when your system can pull the moisture out of the lower container every 2 days.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, yeah, and like if you're always having that available to the soil system, and it's not to the plant as much as it's to the biology and
Mm-hmm.
the soil system that
The
pulls that
rhizosphere.
moisture up. The plant's just there, its roots are there. It's going to get all the water she wants, and that's why your buddy's seeing such abundant growth because she can take everything that she needs out of that water.
Yep, I agree.
So why did you go away from it this year? Just an ease of setting things up, Tony, or was there a different reason for testing?
Well, my life kind of happened. My mom got sick, and I reset everything. I got rid of or lost every plant I had, and had to restart everything. So I just went fresh with everything.
Okay.
So
So
I,
would
I
you
literally,
move back into that type of a wicking system? Because, like you said, it was much easier to run than what you're doing now.
oh, if I was inside, I would use it. It doesn't work outside here. It's 114 degrees. That water being 114 in the bottom is not conductive to any kind of biology. So I
Yeah,
literally have to water with cool water to keep the rhizosphere cool and to retain moisture in the plants. So that's and where I live. I'm in the 17th hottest place in the United States. That's how hot I get here. There's like only Arizona is the most consistently hotter place in the United States than where I live right now. It
yeah,
gets extremely hot. So the way I have to grow is different than the way you guys would grow 100% up in Canada. You like, and even over in Maine, my buddy Cheddar Bob, I've seen him like not water for a month, and if I tried to not water for 2 days, I'll lose my
yeah,
whole garden. It's just not going to make it. Even if I was in the ground here, and because I used to be able to grow up in my garden up here, I've got a spot we used to be able to grow there in the ground. I can't access it in the wheelchair, so I
yeah.
literally had to move to a living soil pot system. So what I'm trying to do is uh, turn them into micro hugelcultures, each one of them as I go through. So this year, the 3x3 became, because it's the biggest, I did that one by itself first. So next year I'll do two of the 60s. And then
Right,
after that, I'll do the 30s. And each one of those will get turned into a hugelculture where the bottom third is filled with wood that's been activated with a worm casting and EM1. That way
right.
it doesn't rob the nitrogen from your soil system. I'd add a little bit of charcoal, activated biochar to that also,
Right.
and
Yeah.
some a kashi, some kind of kashi grain that you put in there that's activated with EM1 or labs or
Yeah.
something similar. Some IMOs that you make, like an IMO3, um, and
Well,
that's
you
how I
need the
would.
biology built into the system, and that's
Mhm.
where like activated charcoal or biochar, if it's not activated, if you don't have the biology in there already, it is going to pull biology out of your system, and you're not going to have a very good grow. You have
Mhm.
to have it fully charged and active, and so it's not taking, it's giving the biology into your system. That's one of the problems with using biochar is people don't understand if it doesn't have a full activation, if it's not truly alive in there, it's going to pull biology out of your system instead of adding biology into your system that
Mhm.
first year.
Mhm. I would activate that for sure with a worm casting or compost tea.
Yeah,
Let it sit in that charcoal for like 24 hours, and then pull it out. let it drain. You don't want it bone dry again, but you don't want it just soaking wet when you go to put it into your mix. And put that in there like 2%. You don't want to go crazy with the charcoal. With
Exactly.
the activated charcoal. And same with the Kashi blend. Each one of those, I do it at like 2% of your whole soil blend that you're putting in there.
Now,
The
Dave,
only place
whoever
I might
Dave
add
is,
more would be underneath the wood in the hugel.
yeah, yeah. So whoever Dave is, he's supposed to jump over onto Chris's show. He won a prize or something on Chris's show. So I don't know if he's watching the chat or not. So Dave, jump on with Chris. You've won a prize.
They're giving away some Bud and Lather soap.
Dave,
and
Brian.
Probably some seed stuff.
Okay. So there you go, Dave. You got to jump onto Chris's show to claim your prize. So one more minute. Okay, come on, Dave.
And when you're doing those, I'd also add some humic acid to that, and humic acid and neem one, activated worm tea or compost tea to those.
Yeah.
And fill the bottom third of your beds with that stuff, or even your largest pots if you're growing outside. And then put on top of that your active soil, and you will increase the amount of carbon that will become available. Like the next year, you're going to have a way superior grow to the first time you do it in it. Yes. And as the year goes by, you're going to increase the amount of available carbon nutrition that's in there.
And considering that everything on our planet is built from carbon, we actually need that carbon available for our plants so that our plants can grow properly and reach that, genetic potential I'm always talking about.
It's the number one nutrient, carbon.
Yeah. Well, it's what the cells are built
There should be carbon, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. The NPK should also include calcium because a plant needs to have a ton of calcium. It's producing it on its own through photosynthesis. Like that's what it needs. Bad. It's collecting it through its root system. It's storing it back in the soil.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, urine would help activate. Like if you want to activate a biochar, you can make it in a TLUT, a top draft down or downdraft system, and then you can activate it with urine. Because that's actually how you can activate an aquaponic system is through urine or urea as well. It's got that particular biology. But I know that Charlie Schultz, we had him on with Leighton. He's an aquaponics expert. He's starting instead of using hydrotron, the clay balls, he is using biochar in his beds to grow his plants. And I think that's really a brilliant idea because in aquaponics, you're creating a biofilter to capture that biology that changes the nitrates to nitrites. And you're just supplying that much more of a living space for that biology by using biochar. And I think you could actually put biochar in, say, if you had a fish tank, leave it there for a month, pull it out, throw that in your soil system. I think you're going to get all the aquatic biology that's actually necessary in your soil system.
Yeah, like the old school, not old school, but the charcoal filters in a fish tank. That charcoal work killer. It's just not a lot of it.
Well, well, that's where Leighton was taking the filters out of the fish tank, throwing it in, I think, about 3 gallons of water in a 5-gallon bucket, and then letting it sit for a few days. And as soon as it started to smell really sweet, then he was using that because the biology was like making a tea. Right, the biology was more active, and then he would water that into his systems. Actually, I think he probably throws that on his hugelkultur that he builds. So it looks like you got a fancy mic sitting there in front of you there, Tony. I can just see the head of it. Yeah, nice one, man.
Yeah, I got new internet, so I've had this. It just doesn't work with my other stuff because I didn't have enough processing power to upload this new good sound and video. So I've got a better camera out and a better microphone.
Oh, sweet, man. Pretty soon you're going to have, backgrounds like I've got, like green screen.
Here we go. Here, you want one? I'll give you one. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Virtual background
Which
searching
one? We
time.
can do this one.
See, there you go. And you don't even have a green screen behind you, right?
Want that one?
Yeah.
We're gonna do black and white. We can do the
Oh, the
bone. We'll
black
do
and
the.
white's good.
We got the
Yeah.
bullseye. Or we can put up some weed. There's some blood, sweat, and tears right there. That's my blue dream crossed angel. Here's my mud bone. What wrong way? Mud bone. She's all black. Here, we'll stick with
Right on. So
There
what's
you go.
your grow like? Like you got how many plants out in your area that you're watering every
I can
day? So
take you
how
guys
long?
out there. Let me just get my phone. Well, I can just take you out there. I don't need to fucking phone out. Let me jump on with the phone real quick.
Okay.
I'll add
Yeah, take
myself
a
and I'll
garden
go outside
tour.
and show you guys what's going on out there.
Cool.
But I do have a phone mount. If I could just, there it is. Hold on. Let me grab my phone mount.
Okay. So yeah, we're gonna get a garden tour from Tony here right away, and then he can describe. How long is it taking for you to water it in a day? 2 or 3 hours? Like I'm not sure how many plants you have, Tony.
No, man. It only takes me about 20 minutes to water out there. I water with 75 gallons when I'm adding teas and such.
Okay.
So I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 8 plants I'm flowering out there in
Right.
30 to 120 gallon pots. But I also have stuff in my my greenhouse.
Right.
So let's see here. I'm gonna pop in. I'm gonna turn this one off. I'm gonna pop in on the other one here. We're gonna go outside.
Okay. Sounds good. And yeah, because we haven't had a tour of Tony's garden here for quite a while. The last time he went out to his garden, he forgot we couldn't hear him, so we could see everything, but we couldn't listen to him talking. So you're still on mute, Tony, on your camera, but on your phone's on mute.
I know.
There you go.
Hold on.
Okay, let's see. What is he doing? He put himself back on mute, guys. Okay, he turned his camera around.
All right. So if it goes out, I'll have to go back in because it's hot as shit out here. Sometimes my camera will go out on me. So let's see here. Right. Well, this plant right here, this is the Ghost of Boneyard. This is a Ghost OG back cross number 1. That one's in a 15 gallon. This one here is the one hitter quitter. This is the one I did a write up on Skunk Magazine's website. If you guys go on to the strain review, one hitter quitter, this plant's been written up there. It's a clone I've been keeping for about 2 years now. It's a Corey Stardog cross to my Space Cheese. It's named after my pit bull that passed away a few years back here. I've got a few lines named after him. That's some good ass weed right there. It tastes like, tastes and smells like the end of a spray paint can or propane tank, like a black marker from like the 80s, man, before they started banning propellants and shit. That plant's gnarly. And when we come over here, this is the one that cannot handle the heat out here. This is the Mac 1 Space Cheese. It's a 30 gallon. Okay. That plant's maybe 4 feet tall. She does not get big. She does not produce a lot of branching. And this heat out here is just killing her. She cannot handle it. But she is a stinky girl. Real stinky.
Yeah. And you're running over your garden
next
hose.
Plant I'm going to show you, I just had tested on the DNA level. And it comes back as a CBD dominant plant. This is my Ghost of Candida. It's ACDC, Harlequin, Ghost OG, Kim Dog Special Reserve. So this plant and her sister, which is next to her over here in a smaller pot, flowering out that I made seeds. They both come back as CBD dominant cultivars, along with the other plant I'm going to show you here in a minute, my Totally Haze. Both of those from the DNA level produce more CBD than they will THC. So that test just came back last week when I was on the Brian and Marco show.
Tony, I got to get some of those seeds.
I'm sorry if you guys hear my air conditioner. The tall plant here, that's pushing up through my trellis, which is now at around 11 feet. That's
Yeah.
totally haze. That's haze F3 times redwood kush F3. It's also a CBD dominant cultivar. And the plant you see right here in front in the pot, that's its sister plant that's seeded, also a
Okay.
CBD cultivar, along with the one that you see in the black pot right there. That's the sister to this plant. And all four of
Okay.
those are CBD dominant cultivars. Those are the ones I'm breeding with currently. I'm about to harvest these for the seeds. I was just checking them yesterday, and the seeds were falling in my hands, so they're done.
Cool.
And we turn around and we come over here. This is the Ghost of One Hitter Quitter. So the plant I showed you back behind me over there is the mother to this one. I
Mm-hmm.
call it Nana's Boy, also named after my pit bull. Um, it's in a 120-gallon pot right here. This is the hue culture. So the bottom half of that is all wood that's been activated, and then the top has a new living soil that I made.
Yeah. Yeah.
Over here would be the Ghost OG Backcross 2 that I've made. It's taken me 5 years to get to that point. Since 2019 is when I started making the selection and breeding of this line right here.
Yeah.
Next to it is the Ghost of the Daywrecker headband. That one there is going to be some nice OG herb. Both of those are OG dominant herb. Behind me, these ones, I mean, I don't know if y'all smoke haze, but the incense style haze is what this tall plant's like. It's nice. Over here, that's a fruit and gas, the Mac 1. Well, we come into my greenhouse, and there's copies of everything that was out there in here. So,
Right.
like, this is that. Where's the Mac 1? Right here. This is the Mac 1 space cheese. That one out there that can't handle the sun inside under a shade cloth that doesn't have issues.
Okay.
She grows nice. And I've got her, like I said, there's a 3-gallon here. I've got her in 2 gallons up here. Um, I also got her in a 1 gallon up there.
Okay.
So I put them in multiple different pots to check how they will react in the root zone, also to temperature with the shade cloth. Because under the shade cloth up here, it's a 35% shade cloth. It reduces the temperature inside of here, not just the sensitivity of the sun. So it's a lot cooler in here than outside. So when it's
Okay.
114 outside the greenhouse, it's only about 100 and maybe 5 in here. So I'm getting about a 10-degree difference, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see what
Definitely.
else I got here. I've got some aloe vera from the Virgin Islands out here that my buddy Danny left me when he moved out. When his wife passed away, he moved back out to the Virgin Islands, and he left those here for me. This is a
Oh,
lemon tree I've had for 35 years. It came off of my godfather's tree, who he had for 60, 65 years. I've
okay.
been cloning. I just gave Chris Guerrero and Tank Chair one of these the other day that were in 1 gallons. I'll be cloning it out this year again. And I passed
Cool.
it. This one has some fruit over here on the side that'll be coming in. I also have redwood trees that I clone. It's hard to see if I can show you guys, but back here in the there's right here. This came from Frank. This is
Yeah.
dragon fruit, but in the back, these are redwoods that I cloned off of my redwood tree outside. That's 40 years old.
Cool.
I've been cloning those for a long time.
You can pretty much clone anything if you figure
Still
out how.
sound there.
Where's the sound at? Can you hear me?
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
So,
I was just saying that's totally cool, Tony. You can pretty much clone anything if you figure out the how to do it.
oh yeah, that's the thing. Like if you go online, at least from what I found, it says it takes 6 months to clone a redwood tree, and I get them done in 10 weeks.
Yeah.
I just use an arrow cloner, and use the right amount of hormones, and they'll root for you. It's not
And
too hard.
quickly.
Yeah, I've rooted that. I've rooted the lemon tree multiple times. The bushes that are behind me that you can probably can't see, but I've done these. I've got Japanese maple that I've done. Um,
Cool.
no, it's not hard, man. I used to run a clone facility, so
Yeah, you
cloning
know what you're doing.
cloning's not hard.
And Bry Guys Gardens, yes,
Yes,
totally cool. Oh, you got both on. Oh, thank you. And we'll switch back. There he is.
I pushed the wrong button first. Sorry. It's a little too warm out there for me. I had to come back in. Sorry.
Yeah, I know where like you're hitting the hundreds. I'm actually let's see where I'm gonna be hitting 80s, 85s today in my area, which like for northern Alberta is damn hot.
Yeah, we're only 83 right now, so it's actually cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and cooler in the greenhouse, probably it's down in the 70s.
Yeah, the greenhouse is nice. I don't my thermometer died when we hit 114 the other day, so I need to get a couple new thermometers.
Yeah, yeah. They don't
Last
like
year
it
I
when
had
they overheat for some weird reason, you know.
Last year I put two of them outside, one in the shade and one in the sun, to show that they were showing correct. So the one in the shade was the same temperature that they would give us here officially, and the one in the sun at 141 degrees.
Ouch.
I'm like, it's like it's fucking hot as shit out there. It's just bad. You can't do nothing. I almost had a heat stroke the other day. I went out there for 15 minutes to try to do some, like I was going to do some repotting. So I started getting all the stuff and putting it together so I don't have to move a lot in the wheelchair. And just that alone, I had to come in and lay down for a while, man. It tried to kill me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like I know up here, I've actually had heat stroke once and almost had it probably 3 other times, but caught myself in time. And it's dangerous when you can get really fucking sick from heat stroke. Yeah, and Pembina River saying, yeah, too hot for me. Well, yeah, you're north of me, Pembina River. So, you know, you're even a little bit cooler by probably a degree most of the time. But so other than that, Tony, like we've been talking about watering. So you're saying that to water all of that takes you like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I went out there this morning at like 6 and I was done by like 6:20. I was back in the house, and it just takes me time to move the hose around more than it does anything else. It works because I'm using my hose water really, unless I'm doing a tea or something, and then to do that, I have 100-gallon tub. What I did is we went to the feed place here for animals, and they sell a big old plastic Rubbermaid watering tub for animals to drink out of. Yeah. So I just use that to fucking. I got 2 of them. Yeah, it's a big old black one that I use here. And if I just fill that thing up and put whatever I need, if I'm putting EM1 in, if I'm adding, like I use, where'd it go?
Yeah, 100% shooter. Yeah.
But I like to use BioAg Full Power humic acid. But for everybody out there that wants to use humic acid and doesn't want to buy it, you can always just make it with an old coffee pot. A coffee pot and some compost and some coffee filters and some jugs to hold what comes out of it. You can make a golden humic fulvic that'll come right out of that just by running soil like it's coffee. Not well, you could use soil, old composted soil if you've got a spot on your yard. Extract.
Yeah, I know, and you can actually take like worm castings compost and to get pure fulvic. You can actually use your heat press. Just don't turn on the heat, and you'll get a golden liquid that comes out of that, and that's pure fulvic acid. Yeah. So, how many teas are you putting in your grow, and are you hitting it at different times with different teas? Like, what's your veg? Do you have a different veg tea to a baby tea, or are you even doing flowering teas?
No, I don't try to direct them in any way other than like I just want biology is what I want in there. Like the pot should be big enough to sustain what's in there, and if not, I can just do a top dress and let the tea basically break that down. So the top dress would be worm castings and whatever dry amendments I really have around here. So I like to use what we have down here is down to earth.
Yeah.
So I can use that, or I used to have a spot where I can go buy anything by the pound. And I used to prefer that. So I could go down and buy any one of the amendments that I wanted by the pound and have the ability to just throw a few handfuls or a cup on there.
Yeah.
And then throw some worm castings on top of that, a brand new layer of kashi by the handful, like one, and one, and that'll break shit down fast.
Yeah. That's a lot of biology.
I've got what 3 test growers up in Canada, and they love my gear up there. Let's see, Magpies. He's doing a breeding project with like 3 or 4 of my lines right now. Jen's Garden and Ganjay Farms have done breeding with my stuff up there over the last 3 years.
Cool.
Jen, they've tested probably 10 to 15 of my crosses up there, up in Canada.
Are now they indoor or outdoor?
Well, Magpie does both, and Jen and Ganjay are indoor.
Yeah. And that's the thing with indoor, we're controlling the environment, guys. It's not like, being where Tony is, and having the sun beating down, because like I just won't grow outdoor. I can't finish a long flowering plant outdoors. I have to grow indoors. And then we're controlling it so that Tony's gear should run perfectly for any indoor grow, because we're controlling it.
Yeah, the Pacific up there, Washington area, because shooters up in that area. We got Maine. I got stuff right on like all down the border of Canada up there, and they do great up there.
And Manderson saying he's got Yandi raging outside in southern Canada. So
he's not really in southern California, but he's close. He's real close. But like his plants are doing great in that cold weather. I can show you a picture of him. Hold on. Because he just sent me some last week.
Or Canada Light, as Chris calls it. Oh, man.
And Chris is growing my gear in the hot, and he claimed this year, these are his words, that my stuff are doing the best so far.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You're supplying so much biology on the outside of the seeds that you're selling, let alone the inside of the seed. As long as it's going back into a living soil system, your gear is going to kick ass, man. Just the way it is. And that's the key is the biology, guys. And that's where Tony was saying that's what he's adding, into the soil with these mixes that he's creating. And I don't grow a plant, I grow biology. Let the biology grow the plant. Like, you're going to have some beautiful plants that you never thought you could ever have just by focusing on feeding the biology, because it's the biology that builds the dang plant, guys. Come on. And there's Tony. I don't know. I don't think he froze.
Those are the ones Manderson's talking about.
Oh, cool. Let me just bring that up, Tony. Hold on a second. Switch sides.
And that's my Yandi. And Yandi would be my Mudbone cross to one hitter quitter. I've done like 4 crosses to that one hitter quitter, and I love that plant. She's so nice. She's killing. I mean, that's if you need sleep, this right here, this line, everything that comes from that one hitter quitter, except for a few select people so far, I mean, it's just powerful, put you to sleep medicine, man.
Cool. That's that end of the day.
He's also got my Bubba back cross out there. He's got some killer plants, man.
Hey, Gilbert. So, okay, you're adding the biology more and more and more. You're watering, you're very quickly watering in that heat, because you got quite a bit of plants there. What would you say is the key for most people, especially like a beginning grower, to make sure that they're not overwatering? Because that seems to be a major pain point with a lot of growers.
Yeah, most of them are overwatering from what I've seen. I'd like to show them how to just water from the bottom. Once you have an established clone that has a root system, I fill up the 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 um the saucer that the pot's in. So I like to get a saucer that's 2 inches larger than the base of the pot. That's about 1.5 to 2 inches tall. And I'll fill that all the way up with whatever the water or tea I'm using and allow it to plant to absorb it. If it happens quickly, like as I'm watching it, I'll add a second one. And that's as far as I'll go with that. And from there, you can start to judge how much you need. If the next day you have to add that same amount, you could have added 50% more the first time and it would have went through 2 days. And it's imperative to keep a moisture level correct in the soil, but not to overdo it, because overdoing it brings the anaerobic, and underdoing it kills biology and raises up the salt levels. So there's a sweet spot with cannabis where you want to keep it pretty moist, but aerated. So you could keep it as wet as you wanted, as long as there was an extreme amount of active oxygen. But in a warm setup in the root system, the amount of oxygen available becomes real low fast. So that's why having a very loamy system in an indoor system is for a new grower usually better. So it's something I try to show them. At the bottom, add as much aeration product as you can, be it rocks or sand and rocks, something that's going to keep air down there. Even when water goes down, it's not going to continue to absorb it. So that's what the rocks and sands would be. They can be wet, but they're not going to absorb the moisture that's in that layer. If it was wood chips or something else organic, it would retain there and stay and become anaerobic.
Yeah. Yeah, and you do not want anaerobic pockets in your soil system, and you don't want dry pockets in your soil system. That's where like I love the SIP system, and just the like I found it actually. I was doing tomatoes back before I ever grew cannabis. I was cloning tomatoes and stuff like that, and it was just a matter of a bucket with a rag that was up over the pot edge, and the rag sat in the water, and it would slowly wick into the soil system because it would just naturally draw it. It's so simple to actually set this stuff up. We get too focused on, if it's not at the grow shop, then, or in a grow book, we don't look at what's available. And a lot of other industries have been doing all this stuff for decades upon decades, but we're ignoring all that research, and we need to really open our eyes and see what is available out there. That's why Tony's always learning. He's got a finger in the air.
I'm reading the comments. I'm going back to see if I missed anything.
Oh, okay.
Super important. All the homies that are out there, and Corey and Shooter and Manderson, Rory, Benny.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Okay, I'm actually not producing today, guys. I have Silly Lily in the background producing for us today. So I'm not actually reading the chat very much. I can actually focus on what Tony's talking about, and I appreciate that from Silly Lily. Thank you very much. So, what is it about weighing pots? Because I know there have been people that literally will put a scale and try to get that exact water content. Like I know Brandon Russ steers a lot with water. Have you played around with steering your plants with water at all, Tony, or you're just trying to give them a set amount?
Well, it depends on the system. Like my outdoor system here, there's only a few things I could set up that are going to work out here.
Yeah,
I can have I could make a system out here that would do everything for me. But then if it fails, if I'm gone, or if it turns on when it's not supposed to, it can fuck everything up. So that's why I prefer not to do that plus it gives me the ability to do stuff, like to actually go outside. If I wasn't watering, I'd be stuck inside all the time. If I wasn't out there taking care of my plants, I'd be doing something. If it was a facility I was running again, there'd be a whole different setup. Depends on how many people I got working there, how many plants I got going. Each one of those systems is going to dictate how I'm going to go about growing. And how is the herb being put into the system? So as if it's a flower, I'd be less likely in an indoor system to be running a full soil system unless I had hands on all the time, because there's too many ways for pathogens to get in there and be stuck in my system that I can't get rid of easily, and I don't want to fuck shit up. Like I can
We've actually
repeat.
have Tom Landry on. He's been running Layton's horizontal soil system in his commercial grow for, I think this is his 4th or 5th run on it. Tonight with Layton, and Av actually I think is traveling, so I don't know if Av's coming on, but we're going to be able to look at Layton's system and what it's been doing and how it's been doing it and talk about it. So I think that in a lot of ways for indoor growers is going to be the ultimate SIP system. You set it and forget it.
Well, once the soil system's got biology in them, all of them are going to work.
Well,
if you don't, as long as you understand your system, is where you're going to be able to get into the issues. If you don't really know what's going on in your system, once something goes wrong, you don't know where to look.
Yeah.
So like the success sides are always great. It's when there's an issue that comes in. How do you get the help? Like Brandon, he's a smart dude. Same with Layton. Yeah. Those are guys that you could hit up and ask them a question about what's going on in the system. And as consultants, they'd be able to help you out. Yeah. Some people, once they've told you how to use it, there's the questions are done and there's no more contact. Like depending on how large a corporation is or where you got the soil from. Like if you hit up Amazon, you're not calling up Bezos and asking them, why are my plants having a deficiency in week 7?
You know, hey, can we reach out to Elon? We want to go to Mars, man. We want to take cannabis tourism to Mars. You know, come on. I think that's great. And there's so many intelligent people like yourself, John, Layton, all these different people. That's why I keep telling people, listen to many voices, find the ones that resonate with you, listen to them, because they're the ones that are going to excite you to keep on this journey of education. Okay. Which is, I like the coffee mug, Tony. Tommy.
Tommy's a Cleveland Browns fan, just like me. This was a gift from Gummy Girl out there. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. I'm the only one in California.
What that is an actual Browns fan.
My dog was named Cleveland.
Okay. I don't know. Like we're more of going off on a tangent there, but
I just saw Tommy. He's the homeboy.
Yeah. Bring us back to water. What are you drinking there? Just water?
Just coffee right here.
Oh, okay.
The breakfast blended coffee.
Yeah.
And water. Got to keep hydrated, so water and coffee. But I don't have anything. I'm diabetic, so I can't drink any sugary sweet shit. So the way I get flavor into my systems through coffee or tea, depending on how I'm feeling. I'm usually drinking coffee, but every once in a while, tea. I'll drink some black tea and just to get a different flavor.
Yeah, I don't drink much for teas. I used to actually drink quite a few teas when I was trucking. But yeah, coffee is the mainstay, you know. I probably should actually stop drinking coffee for a while. I could probably get off the caffeine kick.
That's my Bob's Cheddar he's talking about right there. It's named after Cheddar Bob. That's the Bruce Banner number 3, the space cheese.
Yeah.
Big
That's the one that got you out of bed, wasn't it?
Bob, Cheddar Bob sent me seeds of some plants he had. It was actually a sour stomper. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He sent me sour stomper, and the guy I had mentioned earlier, Roberto, he sent me the Slovenian, and those are the 2 autoflowers that made me get out of bed and start checking cannabis again.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that stuff, I might be dead right now. And I may have never found the will to get the fuck back out of a bed again, because I never thought I was touching a plant again.
Yeah.
I had like it was set in my mind that I wasn't going to make it, and it just didn't work. It wasn't As soon as I planted those seeds and they popped up, and like I wanted to get up, no matter how much pain I was in, to look at them, I knew I had a reason again. And I don't know why
Yeah.
it's the cannabis plant, because I was growing tomatoes and lettuce and onions and shit before that at the same time. But as soon as the cannabis seed popped up, I threw those other plants away. They just don't talk to me. Cannabis
Yeah.
speaks to me in a way that I can't explain to anybody. Like the only thing I can say is it's my ancestor. Like if you ever find yourself doing shit and you don't know why, it's like you were talking about earlier, something that came from your great grandfather. That's how I feel cannabis is to me. It's
Yeah.
teaching me a lesson that my great grandfather isn't here to teach me, or my great grandmother. And for some reason, I'm forced to listen. I can't turn away, no matter how hard I try.
And Tony, isn't that a wonderful feeling?
I'm telling you, this plant, for some reason, just no matter what, comes back to me in every
Yeah.
position. It's been around me since I can remember. Ever since I was, my mom says I was 3 the first time she saw me with cannabis. I thought I
Yeah.
was 4. So, from 4 years old till now, like that's 46 years of having a plant in my life all the time. There's nothing else besides my own mother that I've had in my life longer. Nothing.
Yeah.
Period.
And I think it's more prevalent than more people think, or most people think, that when we're growing cannabis, she does talk to us like that, where other plants, like some people, it's roses. Like you look at some of these rose gardens around the world, like these people are nuts when it comes to roses, just like we are absolutely nuts when it comes to cannabis. But it's that personal connection to who you are inside. And that's what really gets me motivated to keep going every day, is because of that type of a connection with the world around me and the plants around me. Okay, Tony.
I
Yeah.
just got an email from someone I had to check. Tom says me too.
Well, it's like John was on what, 4 meetings at the same time last week on the show. I mean, this week he's flying back from Calgary to BC. So, but anyway, guys, we're any questions? Like we've just been kind of chattering along here. Aromatherapy. Yeah, yeah. It was one of the lowest points when I started my indoor grow ups. It was only for getting precipitation to check out. Yeah, exactly. And why does it always seem to be that way with, we've got a beautiful community here, and like that's why I'm always preaching caring, sharing, and community. And this community is, really on the same wavelength that we are, Tony, and John is, and so many others. And we are the lit candles. You guys are the lit candles. And remember, the more you share this, you're not going to diminish yourself by sharing this knowledge and understanding, and in some ways wisdom. And the younger people is the future, so we got to get in touch with those guys, but we got to get in touch with our farmers as well, and not just cannabis farmers, not just hemp farmers, but we have a way of growing here that changes the makeup of the biology on our planet. So we got to get that information out there, guys. So don't forget to talk to people about this stuff, right? Put comments, on YouTube. We're on Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. If the stream ever goes down, like if we got hit by YouTube for last Monday's show, because the woman started talking about the vaccines and that kind of stuff. So that full show is on Rumble, guys. So don't forget that we have channels all over the place. So if YouTube goes down, we're still going to be broadcasting somewhere, or to just not YouTube, to all the other platforms. So don't forget, just in case the stream does go down, in case YouTube gives us a strike, you know. How many strikes have you had, Tony?
I don't know. On my own channel, looking maybe just one. I don't know if I've even had one. On the other ones,
Okay.
we've had all kinds though.
Yeah.
There's been like 4 of them on the other channels.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, we're at the hour, so we're gonna cut it there. Don't forget, I got Leighton Morrison with Tom Landry updating on his commercial grow using Leighton's horizontal soil system. And then I've actually got May Moon on, or Asia Moon, the young lady that's working with John Berfelo to put on pot fights in Vancouver. So we're going to be talking about that event and some other events that they've got coming up. So that's on actually at 6 p.m. tonight. And then, of course, we've got Andy on Wednesday, Luna. I'm not sure who her guest is. Alex is back, I think, next week with her again. Friday, we have Shay LeBlanc from Rosebud Farms in southern BC, who's actually the creator of the Unicorn. And they're not calling it the Unicorn Cup. They're calling it the Unicorn Music Festival now. We have him on Friday. And then, of course, we're back with Tony and John next Monday. Tony, anything you want to mention before we cut out?
Well, let's see. I do have some seeds that'll be coming to Dogger Garden this week. My new Ghost of Boneyard stuff. They're all tested for 8 different viruses and 1 viroid from the mother stock, the father, and the seed stock on all of them. Plus, they're tested on the DNA level for THC or CBD dominance.
And I need some of the CBDs one. Okay. I know that.
Yeah, the 2 that are out there, I have seeds of those I can get to you, man. They're crosses of the haze crosses to 2 different CBD cultivars.
Right on, man. Yeah, that's the one thing I haven't really gotten into was the CBD side yet. I'm still smoking my sour diesel, man. That's what I was smoking on earlier. Okay, was the sour diesel. I still got a couple of pounds, you know.
And ganja, man, yes. Worm castings are always good.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, straight worm castings made from a tea, top dress with them, add to your soil. Yeah, they're going to work. They'll also help cleate your nutrients from the enzymes that are produced inside the worm cast.
Okay, we got one question from Ganja Man. One question. I'm using Fox Farm soil and chelated nutrients from Canada. I wanted to add a little extra biology and was hoping worm castings every now and then would help. Yes, 199%.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you have multiple plants or you're trying to do your yard or something, mix it with soft collide with water. Strip the biology off the worm castings, make yourself an extract, and then you can spray that biology out on a much wider scale than using your just that much worm castings in a pot and doing it 10 times. You can not use the worm castings in the pot, strip the biology, and spray on the biology without having to use a large volume of worm castings. So, Tony, anything else to add to that before we go?
No, that's about it. Appreciate it.
Okay, man. Talk to you later, guys.